Hi, I'm Jeff Ziegler, Dean of Academics at Pinnacle Classical Academy here in Shelby, and I'm joined today by Dr. James R. Harrigan. Dr. Harrigan is Senior Editor at AIER, the American Institute for Economic Research. He is also co-host of the Words and Numbers podcast, among the top 1% of podcasts in the nation. Dr. Harrigan was previously Dean of the American University of Iraq Suleimani and later served as Director of Academic Programs at the Institute for Humane Studies and at Strata, where he was also a Senior Research Fellow. He has written extensively for the popular press, with articles appearing in the Wall Street Journal, USA Today, U.S. News and World Report, and a host of other outlets. Dr. Harrigan is also co-author of Cooperation and Coercion. His current work focuses on the intersections between political economy, public policy, and political philosophy. Dr. Harrigan, thank you for joining us today.
Well, happy to be here, Jeff. I have some happy news for you. We are in the top 1% worldwide.
Oh, well,
so yeah,
congratulations.
Even better than we could have thought.
Yep, congratulations.
Thank you kindly.
At Pinnacle Classical Academy, we emphasize the importance of major works of literature and primary texts, from ancient authors like Homer and Aristotle to more recent authors like the Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. Why do you think major works of literature and primary texts are important in a student's education?
Yeah, I'm a primary text guy myself. Every course I've ever taught was based on primary texts. And you realize, I think pretty quickly, that the primary texts allow you to enter the world of the writer. And it allows you in that door without any compromises, right? It's not somebody's interpretation of Hobbes, it's Hobbes. And that's a whole lot better, I think. Now, guys like me write interpretations of these sorts of things, and that's fine. I think it's valuable to dig up a point or two and really explain that we might have missed its meaning for all these years. But when you think about who your audience is, who you're educating, well, inevitably, it's young people for you, very young people in some cases. What's the best thing for them? The closest they can get to the people of antiquity, which means their own primary sources. It's something that we assign, we don't apologize for it, and we understand that this is an unalloyed good that we can give to students. Whether they take it or not, well, that's on them. But we sure can give it, and I really appreciate how you do here at Pinnacle.
Well, thank you. In addition to emphasizing primary texts, Pinnacle Classical Academy, as a classical academy, requires its high school students to take classes in Latin, logic, and rhetoric,
nice.
Culminating in a senior rhetoric mini-thesis. And you spoke to our rhetoric class this morning on the history of the rhetorical tradition. And you've previously spoken to our high school students about the political economy, political philosophy. What is your overall impression of Pinnacle Classical Academy from your visits here?
Well, you know, any school will ultimately be judged by the quality of the students who graduate out. And that's, you just can't have it any other way, right? This is what it will be. It will be this every time. And your students, every time I've talked to them, and there are a number of times I've talked to them at this point, probably a dozen, maybe more, they are uniformly impressive every time I walk in the door. And isn't that amazing that we don't even hit a bad day here? Everybody has bad days. And yet, I've never seen one at Pinnacle, which means it's really a quite outstanding place. I've often said this to you. I don't know if you hear it or if you believe it, but my children would have gone to this school if that were an option for them. I don't know what higher compliment I could give you than that, right? That I would trust you with my children.
Well, thank you. What makes Pinnacle students stand out from your impression as someone who has spoken here?
Yeah, they understand that they're part of a learning process, right? That this is something that's an ongoing thing. It's going to last their entire lives. When you sit around a seminar table and somebody says anything from one of the sources you've been reading, before you know it, every hand is up and everybody wants to get their say. And isn't that wonderful? because that's the kind of thing I find here. I find students who are ready to throw in, to be a partner in their own education. Typically, high school students aren't like this. And here they're like this all the way down to, K. Do you have K? I've never seen K1 and 2. I've seen the little ones from time to time. I don't lecture in front of them. Of course, that would be a pointless waste of everybody's time. But I can see the way they walk through the halls. They're proud. They're straight. They're thrilled to be here. They're generous and kind with one another. I already see all that's right with the place. I see students who just can't wait to learn something. When you tell them, look, I think you're probably ignorant about this, their knee-jerk reaction is, really? Tell me more. And that's fantastic. You can't teach that. You can encourage it. You can hope that you can make it grow. But you can't just wave your hands at that. So somehow, somewhere, these kids have been associating with a very good kind of person. My guess it's quite a few of you, right? That it's not just you, it's all of the administration, and it's not just that, it's the teachers too. And then what role do the students play with each other? And I think that's probably quite meaningful as well. So you set out to have a good school, right? Everybody does. Nobody ever says, let's build this and have a really terrible school. But you got more than you bargained for, I think. The way it all came together, it's amazing. I mean, it's just amazing.
Well, thank you. Finally, you have an extraordinary background from being a university dean in Iraq to co-host of one of the world's leading podcasts, to an author, senior editor, American Institute for Economic Research, among other things. I'd like to give you an opportunity now to speak to our audience about your work and to recommend resources to anyone who wishes to learn more about your area of expertise, political economy, political philosophy.
Yeah, I'm a standard issue political philosopher. I showed up at graduate school thinking I would get the PhD and that I would start teaching and that everything would just kind of fall into place. And that almost happened, but it didn't happen. And you start looking around, and I found out early on in my job that I didn't really like it. And what do you do when you've prepared for a job for, 12, 15 years, and you land there, you get exactly what you wanted, and you don't want it anymore? And that's a real thing that happens, but typically people in my line of work don't have the ability to jump to something else. And I did for a number of strange reasons that just all came together at the right moment. But I've taught 5 different disciplines at the college level. I'm a bit of a polymath. So when people find out that I'm available to, say, go to Iraq, I get that job. Right? It was a very easy job for me to get. And I loved it. Right? It was wonderful. It was crazy. Things were not like they are here. And isn't that great, right? And then I came back here and I took up work with my friend Anthony, and we decided we're going to go hang out at high schools for a while. Then I met you and all the people here. And isn't that fascinating? I think I met quality people when I did these sorts of things. So did I do it for a living? Yeah. But I did it to have a good life, and therein lies the difference. It doesn't matter to me whether I'm working at doing this or that. I'm not married to anything. I'm married to happiness. Right? Whatever can make me happy. I'm just channeling Aristotle at this point, right? Whatever makes me happy, that's what I'm going to do. And it turns out that I can do those things for about 5 years, and then I need to change because it just gets boring after a while. And I don't live according to the plan. Everybody's got, all the academics have this plan. And I looked at it and I said, you know what, I don't need that. I do need other things, but I don't need that. And I've ended up having quite an interesting life as a result. We, Anthony and I, again, we started a podcast a while back. It's called Words and Numbers. I would encourage anybody to go check it out. We've had 500,000 people download Words and Numbers. Wow. Academics get, I used to get, with academic work, audiences of 3, 4, maybe 5 people that would read a peer-reviewed journal. 3 of them are the peers that do the reviewing. But Anthony and I started something that allows us to talk directly to people, right? No filter, just right to you. and we can say whatever we want because what else would we do? And it's worked. Right? We get thousands of people every week joining us to have a listen, and they tend to be really interesting people because we keep up with them. We've set up a Facebook group where we can interact with them pretty regularly, and we do. And I'm always impressed by how smart they are, right? And how decent they are, all the things that I didn't find when I was a professor. Now I'm finding it here, and why not? I mean, just why not?
Well, Dr. Harrigan, thanks so much for joining us on Dare to Soar.
Always happy to come here for any reason. You ask, and I'll be back here in a nanosecond.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Shara Miller, the host of Artworks. Each month we bring to you wonderful, talented artists from here in Cleveland County and the region. We have artists, we have potters, we have painters, we have musicians, we have actors. We just have wonderful artists that come to you and tell you about all that they're doing, their creativity, what inspires them. Join me here on Artworks each month on C19. You can also watch us online at c19.tv.
Cleveland Community College has identified strengthening online learning as the topic for its quality enhancement plan. We're calling it SOAR. SOAR's 5-year implementation plan is focused on continuous improvement of online courses and promoting student success. We're excited for you to take this journey with us.
When I was growing up, my mom was extremely tidy. We were trained to put things back where we got them from. One day, when I walked into my mom's house, I felt like I walked to someone else's house. There was stuff everywhere, and just growing up the way I grew up and to see this transition was very alarming.
When Sean talked to me, it was a wake-up call, and that's when I went to the doctor.
I'm joined by Mr. Howard Beatty, who spoke today to sophomores, juniors, and seniors at our school about the wonders of human cooperation. Mr. Beatty graduated from the University of Michigan with bachelor's and master's degrees in chemical engineering, and from the University of Chicago with an MBA. During his lengthy career with Amoco, then BP, he was involved in every economic facet of the oil and gas industry, from lease acquisition to exploratory drilling, oil transportation, refining, chemicals, supply chain optimization, product marketing, and large-scale project management. Mr. Beatty has been a junior achievement volunteer for over 15 years, teaching principles of business, economics, and ethics to grade school, middle school, and high school students. He is a member of the Foundation for Economic Education Faculty Network. Mr. Beatty, thank you for joining us today.
Good to be here.
At Pinnacle Classical Academy, we emphasize the importance of math, science, history, and great works of literature and primary texts, from ancient authors like Homer and Aristotle to more recent works like the Reverend Martin Luther King Jr.'s Letter from Birmingham Jail and Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning. Why do you think an education like this in math, science, history, literature, primary texts are important in a student's education, not only in the classroom, but also eventually in the workplace?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I think that those subjects are very important for all students, even those who not necessarily gifted in that area, but I think it's good for all students to have a good background in science, technology, engineering, and math. They don't have to be third year engineers, for example, but I think having that background allows them to become better knowledged about what is the issues of the day and be able to understand discussions for government policy, for example, and better understand how what the implications might be of things that are being discussed. And so I think having a more analytical mind. They can better understand those arguments, and I think the country would be better off if people had a better understanding. I do not believe everybody needs to take calculus or even pre-calculus, but I think most students would benefit instead from a good probability and statistics class so that they can better understand those sorts of discussions as they occur.
In addition to emphasizing math, science, history, and great works of literature, primary texts, Pinnacle Classical Academy as a classical school requires its high school students to take classes in Latin to understand the grammar of sentences more deeply, logic to understand how to think, and rhetoric to be able to give presentations, speeches. In your judgment, how can classical education, those sorts of courses, help prepare students for college, the workplace, and citizenship?
Yes, and I've had multiple discussions with students today and questions that they've asked me. And I've mentioned 4 things that students need, that I look for when I've interviewed for potential candidates for me coming into the workforce. One is technical competence, that they are able to do the job that's being asked for them. And certainly if it's an engineering or business-oriented job, well, then they need to understand the technical parts of it. The second part is communication, and the ability to communicate what someone has done, or if they're running into problems with trying to finish a project or something like that, that they are able to communicate what is the situation, what is going on, what do they see as the potential solutions for that, what help do they need. So communication is the second one, and I think an education like which is offered at Pinnacle is very well valued in that regard. The third one is ability to work well with others. And while it can be very frustrating for certain students, the higher performing ones, to work on a team with a project with people that aren't necessarily pulling their own weight, there's something to be said for learning how to work with that, and also to lead people and to persuade them, again, there's the rhetoric, how to persuade them to perform as part of a team, which is also a valuable capability. And the fourth one I've talked about with the students today was to be able to manage others and the ability to lead others, to inspire them to achieve more than what they might otherwise not. And communication, again, very, very important. So I think the ability to do so is quite valuable within the workforce.
Okay. And you spoke today to students in grades 10, 11, and 12. What's your impression of Pinnacle Classical Academy and our students?
Well, I very much appreciate the questions that they asked. I have my prepared remarks, and I have certain questions that I expect to get at the end, but I've had several today that I said, that's going to make me think a little bit, and I haven't been asked those before, so I appreciate the insight, I think, that some of these students have gained as a result of being challenged within the school system here at Pinnacle, and coming up with questions that aren't surface area, but actually required me to think a little bit, how would I respond to that? So yeah, so I think the insightful questions were good evidence of the kind of learning that's undergone here.
And finally, I'd like to give you the opportunity to speak to our audience about FEE, the Foundation for Economic Education.
Sure. So the organization that's sponsoring me here at Pinnacle is FEE. FEE.org is their website, Foundation for Economic Education. It is a organization that was started about 70 years ago with the intent to provide economic knowledge to the target audience is middle school, high school, and college level students. And to do this, they have a wealth of knowledge that is available at their site. In addition, they send out communications in many different areas on a daily and weekly basis. And a thing that I really appreciated as not only someone who speaks on behalf of FEE, but who's also a contributor to them as well, is the relevance of the material that they produce. That it's when their target audience is middle school, high school, and college students, the topics that they address I think are quite engaging. They have a whole economic series on questions that Taylor Swift might have to engage with as she goes about her tours and decides what music she's going to put together, and how to decide what other decisions that she's making. And so I think the relevance of what FEE does in many different modes is quite impressive. I find it's very interesting to me. I generally learn something every day from what I read, and I would encourage those even beyond the college level to take a look at the information that's there, sign up for some of the daily emails, because they address the issues of the day in a way that will causes me to think, okay, yes, that argument makes sense, and I think it'd be great education for anybody of all ages.
Well, thank you, Mr. Beatty.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Hi, I'm Christina Hill, Dean of Health Science, Public Services, and Life Sciences at Cleveland Community College. Thank you for watching C19 TV, a broadcast service of Cleveland Community College.